So recently I've had a lot of you guys reaching out to me about how to start your own 3D printing business out of your own home. And it's a pretty cool idea to think that you can make money just by selling cool 3D printed stuff, like this skull. But it's not as simple as you think, and there is a heck of a lot to learn and a lot of mistakes to make. And over the past few years of running this business out of my home, I've made a lot of them. So in this video, I'm going to show you everything that I've learned so far, so you don't have to make the endless and time-wasting mistakes that I did. So let's get into it. Your business basically lives or dies by two things: your printer and your mindset. So let's start with your printer. When I first started out, I was using Creality printers, and I sometimes lost weeks or months trying to figure out how to fix them. And because of this, I ended up nearly giving up entirely because it just wasn't fun. It was just extremely frustrating. Since then, Creality has released much better printers, but my point is this: make sure that you research your very first printer really well, because the last thing that you want to do is buy a whole bunch of them only to find out that they all really suck. And how do I know this? Because it happened to me, and it really sucked. All the spare parts I bought, all the wasted prints, the filament, the time, and most of it just came down to me being too stingy and not investing enough money into a decent printer. And by the time I added up all the repairs, the parts, the wasted hours, I could have bought a reliable machine twice over. Now, I'm not going to tell you which printer to buy, because that has to be your decision, and it will take research. Don't just watch one video and think, okay, that's great, I'm going to buy it. For me, I have 4 Bamboo Lab P1S printers, and the reason I use them is because they're just extremely reliable and the print quality is awesome. But just because these printers work well for me doesn't necessarily mean that they'll work well for you too. You may have other printing requirements where a P1S just won't be sufficient. You may need a larger build volume, or you may even need a printer that has a laser cutter installed. My only 2 recommendations for the printer that you get is that it has an enclosure and that it has a reliable auto bed leveling system. The enclosure just has a ton of benefits, including keeping dust out of critical components. It helps maintain a stable temperature within the printer, which means your prints come out more consistent. It allows you to print with harder materials like ABS, and it makes it easier to filter out harmful VOCs that would otherwise end up in your lungs. A reliable auto bed leveling system will just make you an overall happier person, because having to manually level a bed is not only time consuming, especially if you have multiple printers, but it can also be a very frustrating thing to have to do. So whatever printer you do end up getting, just make sure that you use it as much as possible before you get another one, because if the printer does suck, then you'll find out pretty quickly. Oh man. Next is your mindset. In the beginning, sales are most likely going to be really slow, and during this time, you're going to question everything: your products, your skills, and even yourself. And instead of asking yourself, what if this never works? Flip it. Ask yourself, what if it does?
If you don't quit, you might make it. And if you quit, you definitely won't.
So from now on, every morning when you wake up, I want you to look in the mirror and say out loud that you are awesome and you will be successful. And the more you say it, the more likely that it will actually happen. And I know it sounds a bit silly, but it really works. When you're selling your 3D prints online, it's really important to make the entire process as efficient as possible, because one of the most important parts of running this business is making the most out of your time. Find systems that automate your workflow as much as possible. So let's start with the software. In the early days, I had to copy paste all of the customers' shipping information from the marketplace onto the Australia Post website, and it just took so long. Plus, because I was entering in all the shipping information manually, it left room for human error and resulted in some parcels going to the wrong people and places. Now I use a platform that not only links all of my marketplaces together with inventory sync and price adjustments and everything, but I can also fulfill orders and print shipping labels with just a few clicks of a button. To do this, just get the cheapest Shopify plan you can. I believe it's around $5 a month, and this will give you access to the Lite Commerce app, which will connect all of your marketplaces together, and it'll allow you to automate nearly everything. Now, the app is a little pricey at $29 a month, but it does have a free trial, so you can always just test it out. I have no affiliation with these guys, but I can easily say that it is the best app for this type of thing. And I've tried a few. I believe Shopify has a deal on at the moment where you get the first 3 days for free and the next 3 months for like $3. So I'll leave a link below if you're interested and you can get in before the deal ends. When it comes to actually shipping stuff, I use Shippo because it's free for the first 30 labels every month and it connects to nearly every shipping provider throughout the world. So not only does it allow you to make use of your shipping provider's volume discounts, but it also makes printing the labels much faster and easier. Another awesome piece of time-saving software is called SimplyPrint, and it's completely free to use with up to 2 printers. It allows me to batch print the same thing on all 4 machines at exactly the same time. It keeps track of my filament inventory down to the gram with the virtual filament sensor, and it just makes printing the same thing over and over and over much easier and more efficient. So if you're stuck using a piece of software that is painfully slow to use, chances are there's already something out there that can do the same thing, but just much faster. Now let's move on to the hardware. The goal is simple: use tools that do their job quickly and reliably. A thermal label printer or even a laser printer saves on label printing times and ink costs, a good digital scale prevents postage mistakes, and a proper packing setup keeps things moving smoothly. Add in a filament dryer to prevent misprints, a few organized shelves to easily keep track of inventory and filament, and a clean workstation for printer maintenance and part assembly. Efficient hardware isn't just about buying more, it's about choosing the right tools that make every step faster and easier. And speaking of tools, you're going to need some for the prints themselves. Something as simple as a blowtorch or a heat gun can save your prints, cleaning up stringing or even fixing blemishes that would otherwise make them unsellable or take you a really long time to remove. Now, over time, you're going to make your own toolbox of things that really help you, but I'd suggest checking out my video where I go through all the tools that I've found most useful, and then you can see if there are any tools that you might find useful too. Now, let's tackle the most important question that you're probably wondering. What do you sell? To begin with, I would focus your time on Etsy because it has a lot of features that make selling, especially for a first-time seller, a lot easier. Even small things like automating your ads and the whole user interface is a lot easier to use than most. There are lots of tools that you can use, such as Sales Samurai or Everbee, and these tools allow you to search for products that you're interested in selling. It shows you how much competition there is, how often people are searching for this product, and a whole bunch of really useful information that you would typically not have access to. I've made a full video on Sales Samurai and how powerful it can be, so I'll leave a link to that below. So once you've found a product or a niche that could be worth your time, it's always a good idea to really dig into the reviews because they are packed full of a lot of really great information. Are people complaining about sizing, durability, or delivery? What do people like about the product and what don't they like? And then it's up to you to figure out where the gap is and try and fill it. Now, you don't need to reinvent the wheel. Apple didn't invent the phone, Dyson didn't invent the vacuum cleaner, and Yeti didn't invent the cooler. They simply just made these things better. And that's what you should focus on. Finding ways to improve a design, fix what customers are complaining about, and make it better. For example, my blind stoppers stood out from the rest of the competition because most sellers only offered one size and one color. I saw the gap and made 3 sizes and 3 colors. Later, when people still had issues with sizing, I took the feedback and completely redesigned the clip, turning it into a universal blind stopper that fits every single type of roller blind, regardless of the size. This concept already existed, but I solved the problems that the existing designs didn't. But I just want to make this really clear. Improving on what's already out there is not the same as just blatantly copying someone else's work. Copying helps no one, but innovating, making it better, easier, more useful, now that is how you build a business. Now, a lot of people don't have the skills to 3D model, and that is exactly why you should. If you really want this to work, then this is the skill that is going to separate you from the rest. And just start simple. Use free programs like Tinkercad or Blender and just learn the basics. So set yourself a goal. 1 tutorial on 3D modeling or CAD design every week for the entire year. And by the end of the year, you'll have a whole new skill set that most sellers don't even bother with. But don't go into trying to design something really complicated for the first time. Instead, design something small and easy. For example, like a drink coaster, and go through the entire process of designing the coaster, printing it out, listing it, and selling it. And even if it doesn't sell, which many won't, especially in the beginning, the experience is worth it. I designed these bag holders about a year ago, and since then I've probably only sold about 2 of them. So it's safe to say that this design was a flop. But the process I went through trying to figure out how to make it was rewarding enough. Every design that you sell gets you 1 step closer to that winning product. And if you want to make this whole process a little bit easier, you can always use a 3D scanner to just scan everyday household items laying around your home, and then use those scans as building blocks for your final product, providing that it doesn't infringe on anyone's copyright. And don't forget to utilize the people around you, like your family and your friends, because they actually make really good and free focus groups.
Very cool.
Even my partner, I go and show her stuff.
Dude, how cool is this?
And if the general consensus is that it's pretty cool, then that's a great indication that I can really dedicate some time to it. But if most of them say that it sucks, which sometimes they do, then it's a great indication that I should just put the idea in the bin. What do you think of this thing? Try to avoid selling 3D prints that take a lot of time in terms of assembly or post-processing, unless you have the time to do it. My blind stoppers, as popular as they are, they take a lot of steps to finish. And before I went full-time, I'd sometimes be up until midnight assembling them all in front of the TV because I just didn't have enough time in the day to do it, and that kind of sucked. If you don't manage your workload properly, then you'll burn out and your business won't last that long. Now, it's important to know that even with the best product in the world, it's not going to sell if nobody knows that it exists. Marketing is half of the game. Listing descriptions, photos, keywords, SEO, ads. I see so many sellers with really great products, but the listing just really sucks. The photos are out of focus, they're all dark, there's barely any information on the listing description. And if these sellers just dedicated a little bit of time in terms of learning how to make the photos better and write a better description and figuring out what an SEO does and how it can affect your ranking of your product, then they would most likely sell a lot more. You can't just make a product, take a photo of it, list it with zero experience and absolutely no clue on what you're doing and expect it to do well, because it most likely won't. But I'm not saying that you need to pay for any of these online courses or even get a coach, because you have YouTube, what you're watching right now. And I've learned most of my stuff on here, and the rest of it has just been through trial and error. And if you do end up making mistakes, then don't beat yourself up too much. Mistakes are good, and that's how you learn. But there's a key word: learn. If you don't learn from your mistakes, then you're going to keep making them over and over, and that's not going to be good. Now, once you've made your winning product, eventually people are going to start trying to copy you. Here is the reality. Unless you're a global multi-billion-dollar company like Apple, then patents are not really something that you can afford. For starters, they're only relevant to the country that you lodge it in, so if you want to get it in every single country around the world, that's going to be a lot of patents, and that's going to be a lot of money. So it's not really realistic for a small seller to patent their product. That said, copyright is automatically applied when you create something, like your STL files or your photos, but it doesn't protect the idea, only your specific design. And if you ever do need to submit a copyright claim, you will need some documentation to prove that you are the original creator. So things like the original Blender or CAD files that you're working with, photos of the physical prototypes that you've made, and basically anything else that can prove that you're the one who made it. And if you really want to have peace of mind if someone does end up stealing your design, you can always apply for design rights through your federal government. For instance, in Australia, you can protect your design rights by lodging an application that costs around $200, plus an additional $500 for certification. So it's not as expensive as a patent, but again, it's only enforceable in the country that it's lodged in. So although some people may be able to recreate your designs to some extent, you always need to be one step ahead of the copycat. Keep improving your designs so copycats are always 2 steps behind. Just remember, they may have your design, but they don't have your mind. Plus, if you built a strong brand and provide excellent customer service, then that's pretty hard to copy. And just touching on the financial side of things, you're going to need to do your own tax. And I'm not going to go on about this too much because even just saying the word tax gives me a brain aneurysm. But the last thing you want is to have this epic year of selling all this stuff only to realize that the government comes knocking on your door saying, "Where's our money?" So I would highly suggest getting an accountant. Even if you are under the threshold of needing to pay tax, eventually you will start to have to pay it. Also, get a separate bank account for your business, because having that isolated from your own personal banking means you can keep it a lot more organized, and when it comes to the tax, that makes that process a lot easier. You don't need to worry about business expenses coming out of your own personal account. Okay, now it's time for some final tips. Expand to other platforms after you've nailed one. So once you've got Etsy all up and running, then go over to eBay, then Amazon, and move over to any other marketplace that you can to start selling the thing that you make. And then once you've expanded, you can use tools like Shopify and Lite to combine them all together and make it a nice little package of happiness. It's gonna make your life a whole lot easier, trust me. Don't go all in right away. Make sure you have a stable job or steady income before you go full time. Because if you buy your first printer without having any experience on what you're doing and then quit your job thinking all the money's gonna roll through the door, it's not gonna be a good time for you. Customers keep you alive, so treat them like family and do everything that you can to help them. That said, don't let them walk all over you. Make sure that you enforce a clear returns policy, no refund or replacement until the item comes back. If it's your mistake, then you cover return postage, but if they just want to return it because either they bought the wrong size or they're just trying to scam you, then they have to cover the return postage. This stops people just returning things willy-nilly and also weeds out the scammers. When it comes to the placement of your printers, you need to keep your own health at the forefront of this decision. Because printers and certain types of filament can give off really harmful VOCs that can cause serious health problems if you're exposed to them for a long amount of time. I only keep one printer in my office so I can record these YouTube videos and prototype things much faster, and the rest of them I keep outside on my balcony. But I understand that putting your printers outside on your balcony may not be possible because you might not have one. So if you do need to put your printers in an area that you're constantly in, that's where having a printer with an enclosure really comes in handy. Fortunately, the P1S has a basic filtration system already built in. However, I upgraded it with a HEPA filter on top of the activated carbon one. And it's a good idea to get an air quality monitor just to make sure that the space that you are printing in isn't emitting too many fumes. Plus, it can give you peace of mind that your filtration system is working properly. The printers that I have outside on my balcony are covered by a pretty high roof that manages to keep most of the elements of weather off them. But the two main things I need to worry about is when it gets too hot and when it gets too cold. The way that I mitigate this is by either opening the enclosures all the way or closing them depending on how hot or cold it gets. And finally, don't forget to maintain your printers. Like any machine, they don't work forever without human intervention, and neglecting regular maintenance can result in a much lower lifespan for your printer and its components, which means more time fixing them and less time printing things. Set a schedule every month to do general maintenance. I always have a bottle of isopropyl alcohol on hand, as it's not only great for cleaning the bed, but other components of the printer as well. Get yourself some Moto floss for the lead screws, as this stuff makes cleaning these screws ridiculously easy, and some lubricant or grease to keep everything running smoothly. Use a rechargeable blower so you can clean the enclosure from loose filament, as well as clean internal parts. Get an electric screwdriver with an auto torque stop feature so you can disassemble everything quickly and safely without damaging anything. Grab some Q-tips for cleaning out small parts, and a couple of spare consumables such as printer beds, hot ends, PTFE tubes, and extruder gears, as these wear out over time and will eventually need to be replaced. Now guys, there was one last thing that I forgot to add into the video, and that is that you need to have fun. This whole thing needs to be enjoyable, and if you're passionate about it, and if you love doing it, then everything becomes about 1,000 times easier. I love being able to create stuff. I've always been creative. Whenever I've kind of strayed off the creative path, things have gone terribly wrong for me. So if you're passionate about it, if you love what you're doing, then the sky's the limit and you will most likely be successful, because why wouldn't you be successful if you're doing the thing that you love? So have fun, enjoy yourself, be creative, and go out there and make some money. Bye.